Hello and welcome to Kozier's Performance and Fabrication. Today I'm going to show you how to remove the starter motor and solenoid on a 2002 Pontiac Grand Prix 3.1 liter. 3.1 liter was the smaller engine of the ones provided. Normally they're 3800s. Some of those are GTP models were supercharged 3800s, and this one's a little bit more uncommon, but they're still out there. So this job's not too hard. It's right up front here. It's a couple terminals, 2 bolts, and a shield there. So for doing this, you're gonna need a basic set of hand tools here. Also, I got out a few wrenches for the bigger terminal. We got a 9/16. The smaller terminal, we have a 5/16. And there's a shield on there, a cover that won't let you get access to the bolts. So that's a 10 mil. Not sure what the starter bolts are offhand, but we'll get to that. Now, for a lot of people, they look at a set of calipers, engine building, which I do a lot of, but also it can be used for smaller jobs too. Instead of running back and forth, trying to find the right size bolt, that kind of stuff eats up time, and time in this business is that's where the money comes from. Having one of these around, man, they're not that expensive. Set it to the fractions, man. It'll help you get that right size bolt the first time. And if you just busted it out and you got a few bolts to do, you can measure them all, write them down, go get the stuff you need, and you can get comfortable under there, for the longer jobs, and not have to worry about grabbing the wrong stuff. A flashlight. I do have a light up there, but sometimes you get to those points where the light just won't reach, so you need the flashlight. I have a new starter motor and solenoid combination. Torque wrench. This is a 3/8 drive model. It really doesn't matter whether it's 3/8, half or quarter even, or as long as it's going to get the job done, you're going to torque it down appropriately. That's what you need. I also have a right angle electric driven impact driver. It does not provide enough torque to damage hard parts of an engine, which is why I like this model specifically. It'll get the fastener in or out, and snug it up, and you can still torque it down without having to worry about doing any damage. I actually use it a lot in engines disassembly and reassembly in most areas. First, I'm going to remove this shield here. It actually goes around, so you can't get at the bolts, which are the bolts for the starter that hold it in are right there and right here. The bolt that I can see right now for these, the guard is right here. That's a 10 mil. And on top is where you're going to find the terminals for the starter. So let's get to it. I'm going to remove that, and I'll see you then. Alright, remove the shield there. Alright, and that gives you access to those bolts. Okay, you can see you can see where it engages right now. That right there is the flywheel, or flex plate on an automatic, which this one is. So it'll be a flex plate. It's got gearing all the way around it, and sometimes you'll find that with a vehicle that they have broken teeth in one area or multiple areas from this or that, and what happens is you're going to engage your starter and it's going to come out and nothing's going to happen. It's just going to spin, and it's not going to do anything. And that's because it lined up with the starter, and those teeth are no longer there. So when the engine does get moved to a point where the teeth can engage, or the starter can engage the teeth rather, it'll then operate again. It'll turn over and everything will be good, but it'll be intermittent because you never know where those teeth are going to land. I did go ahead and size out the bolts there. Like I said, there's a bolt here, and then there's another one right there. Those are 15 millimeter bolts. So I'm going to take those out now and show you how to get the starter out, and I'll be back. I took the top bolt out and I left the bottom one in to hold it while I got the terminal connections loose. I didn't take them off. I wanted to show you what went on there and the order everything goes on. So, you know, a lot of times people, what they'll do when they're doing these, they'll end up mixing up the terminals and putting, you know, wrong wires on. There's, you know, with Google being the way it is, you know, you can find anything you want out on it. As well as, you know, if you're going to be working on these vehicles, if it's your own, I highly suggest having a Haynes or Chilton repair manual. It gives you, you know, everything. Usually gives you the engine, disassembly, assembly, rebuild information, maintenance, which you should be doing and not everybody does. And it also gives you wiring diagrams as well as terminals, stuff like that, which is where this would help. Torque specs, stuff like that. All that stuff is pertinent for working on your vehicle. If you can see up there, there's the big nut. That's where your battery is going to come in. And that little nut right there, that's going to be your ignition wire coming from your ignition system. Now don't be afraid to touch these, because for this procedure, this R&R, the first thing you do if you're going to do anything, really anywhere, just so you don't, you know, nick something with a hammer or a ratchet, a wrench, anything. I don't know how many times I've been working on something and touch the wrong terminal and sparks go everywhere, or you get, you know, burned or something. The first thing you should always do is remove the negative battery cable. And by remove, I mean remove it and put it out of the way, or put something in its way to get, you know, so it can't accidentally reconnect or touch and give you a surprise. And further than that, just safety. There's certain procedures in which if you was to take something out, you know, you could trigger the theft deterrent, and that could, you know, mean a whole bunch of problems for you. Or you could, you know, fry a module, or you know, it's always good practice to remove the negative battery cable. Really, you could remove either one, but you know, it's common practice everywhere just to, you know, remove the negative one. I mean, both of them would achieve the same thing. It would no longer have a pathway. Circuit would be broken, but just stick with the book. Say, you know, remove the negative one, everything will be fine. So for this, the starter, the nose of it, there we go. So it's going to usually be tucked up inside the bell housing there. So in order to do this, we're going to take off the rest of those wires, and I'll do that now. And then we're going to kind of snake it out of the bell housing there, and we're going to check to see if this model or this vehicle has any shims, and I'll speak more about shims once this one's out. Alright, here's the ignition terminal. That one is the only one, I believe, on this car, on that terminal. And then we have, okay, we have two on the big one. So there's three total. Alright, it's kind of hard to confuse these ones because the two big ones have the big terminals on them, and the little one has a small terminal, which is actually nice because there's some times that you can confuse them. But you know, your book's gonna your book or Google is gonna help you a lot about that. Now for this, I'm going to need both of my hands, so I'm going to come back after I have this bolt out, and I'm going to remove the starter, and then I'll show you how it came out. Alright, the starter's out. You can see even more of the flex plate. This will be what you're, right here actually, it's one of the bolts. This will be what your torque converter is bolted to, right there on the far side of this. Will sit your torque converter. Anyways, I donned some gloves here because this thing is just ungodly greasy. That's the starter motor there. It came out pretty easy. It sits up there about like that. You got the nose there and the bell housing, and really you just, once you got the the wires out of the way there and everything, you just kind of, you let it drop and you snake it out right through the bottom here. Now, one thing to do, I like to do, sit them side by side. Now, not all starters are going to look exactly the same, but usually they will. This will help you figure out, if you got the wrong part or not, because it does happen. Part stores, they're people too, and bless them, but sometimes they put the wrong parts in the wrong spot, and it causes people like me a lot of time running back out to get the right part, or running back out and finding out the right part is not even in stock, or they do have one in stock but it's 6 times as much as the one you have. And it's, just so check if you have a model number of what the part is supposed to be. You can check the box, but setting them next to each other, that'll pretty much tell you right there if there's an obvious issue of, there's no way that's gonna fit. So now for this, I'd like to point out that some starters, there could be a set of shims where it bolts up right there, or on the or they'll come out with the starter, or they'll fall out. But they're not necessary. They're not always necessary, so don't always expect to see them. The shims are there to when that comes out, it has to lock in with the gear, or the teeth on the flex plate or flywheel. It has to lock in with them a certain way. If it's too far in, it's going to bind up, and it's going to cause excessive wear. If it's just on the end of the teeth, as far as like too much shim or something like that, or incorrect parts, anything, if it's just barely touching the teeth, it's going to strip it out. It's going to strip out either the starter gear, or it's going to strip out your teeth on your flex plate or your flywheel, and that's not cool. That's replacing the flywheel or a flex plate takes quite a bit of time compared to a starter motor. So just shim it appropriately. If it comes with shims and it's shown that it needs them, or if the other one can't, just make sure you use them appropriately where they're designed to go. Now, as far as the starter bolts go, the first one, the top side, is going to be the short one right here, and it should be pretty evident that it's because the hole isn't very deep, when this one's a few inches deep. So this is the second one to come out here. Once you get both these out, it'll just fall on you. So make sure that when you take these out, you're ready for it to come out. I really don't like having to hold up the starter with one arm while trying to put terminals on, or because it's not bolted in yet. So if you have access to the terminals, by all means bolt it in first. Make sure that all your wires are out of the way, nothing's getting pinched up in the mounting area. But yeah, bolt it up first, man. In this case, that's what I'm going to do, because then you can bolt it up. You don't have to worry about holding it up or anything else, or having to rush, or when you do those wires. and I'll give you an example of a good way to do those wires. Chicken saying hi. So on the end here, there's a block off plate right there in the middle, and that's designed to prevent. Sometimes people don't put these on right. They don't put them on tight enough, and over time, those will loosen up even more, and they can eventually touch each other. Now, if those two terminal wires was to touch, or one to touch the other, your starter would be on constantly. If the ignition wire, touches something, or it can cause a lot of sparking. It can short out your starting system. It's just not a good thing all the way around. So when you put these on, make sure you use the correct procedure to do that. Make sure they're spaced out accordingly. I usually put them so they come directly in, and what I mean by that is so if this is your middle, well, there we go. If this is your middle, you don't want one attached like this. You want it out here like this if you can. Attach one like this, and then this one coming straight out. So you don't ever have to worry about these swinging together, touching, or anything really. But that's the same thing that I would do with anything like this, especially the voltage and really the amount of amps that goes through this. You can usually tell if there's a high amp situation by the size of the cable, and you basically have a battery cable here. So I mean, we're talking about 500 amps. I think the max output of that was like 500, and that's a lot of current. So it needs a big cable to run. So if that current was to touch well, actually, if it was to touch another wire or the frame or anything like it, that's a direct short. It's going to pretty much strip off all the insulation of this wire, and if it continues, it'll cause some havoc. So make sure you put those on accordingly. And after I get that done, I'll show you how I did it and what I mean a little bit better in more detail. All right, I'm back. New ones in here. The bolts are tight but not torqued down yet. I was going to show you how to do that. The terminals, if you can see how I have them positioned, the two up here kind of fanned out next to each other, but that's only so they can seat correctly on here and get the correct power to where it needs to be. But I have those facing up, and I have this one facing out to the side there. So the whole time you tighten them down, you don't have to worry about getting them right, the first time, the whole time you go through. What I like to do, I'll just put them on there the way I want them to, as far as sequence. For this instance, there was two, I don't know where they're at on this one anymore, but there was a couple, two nuts, and there was also a nut there, or a washer, that lock washer on both of those. So what I do is I take and I put the wires on the way it needs to go. Put the lock washer on there, and then put the nut on there, and run that down till it's snug. I mean, you're not gonna finger tighten the lock washer down like it needs to. So I wouldn't worry about that. Don't worry about how they're positioned. They could be touching, whatever. And then once it's snug and you're ready to actually tighten it down, just for that, turn or turn and a half, 2 turns, whatever it is, then position it the way you would like it to be, wherever that is, and then hold them with one hand. The other hand, tighten them down and make sure they're snug. These have to be tight. If they're not, they're gonna act as if your battery's dead, or your starter or solenoid isn't working correctly, And a lot of people misdiagnose something like that, a loose connection. A lot of people misdiagnose that as a battery or a starter solenoid or something like that, when in reality they're just loose, and current can't travel very far through loose connections, especially a lot of it. That's why it's always important to have your grounds tight, your battery connections snug, tight. And this is no exception. I mean, we're talking about battery voltage and battery amperage here. It's no exception. This needs to be tight, and it needs to be tightened down appropriately. If there's a spec for it, then use the spec. If there's not, then just make sure that it's not going to come apart. It'd probably be good practice to well, they got a lock washer on here, so that should keep it tight. But if they don't, I mean, I wouldn't really hesitate to put a dot of thread locker on there, blue type or something like that. As long as it's not interfering with the the contact area. All right, so that's on there. Let's show. All right, so torque wrench. Torque wrench is and I'm thinking about going through and doing a video on torque wrenches itself and how to torque properly, because frankly not very many people know. They just know that they set it and use it, and when it, whatever it is, whether it's a beam type, which I have one of those, or a digital, or a click type, like these ones. I prefer the click type. They're really all supposed to be used the same, but anyways, I'll get to that in another video, a little bit more in depth. And I was thinking about also doing an in-depth video of a starter motor. I was thinking about taking one apart, and it might be that one, and showing really exactly how it works, and how the action works is really cool. How it spins out, and it keeps it there and such. There's there's two. It's actually pretty cool. There's two separate windings in a starter motor, and yeah, it's pretty cool to learn. Anyways, on this one, this 3/8 type, down here there's going to this turns left and right. Down at the bottom there's a lock to keep it where it needs to be. Sometimes these are just half turn. This one's actually a screw. It screws all the way in, just snug. I have to torque that down. On this one we have foot-pounds. I believe it goes up to 80 foot-pounds. So, and what do we have here? I don't ever use it. What is that? Meter something? Anyways, we have foot-pounds. That's the one I use. I either use foot-pounds or Newton meters, inch-pounds, something like that. Really, you can use foot-pounds, 4-inch-pounds. If it says inch-pounds, you divide that by 12. Whatever it says, you divide that by 12, and that's foot-pounds. So you tighten this up. Right is up, and you bring it so it's where you want it. For this specific one, it is 32 foot-pounds. So I'm gonna do that now. All right. So what you do, you just you scroll it up there, and you bring it up until the let me get a better view here. And you scroll it up, turn right up until the line of this here is at the proper table, which was 30. Over from this side, and then you go over 2 more, and it's more than likely they have them indicated on all these types of the increments so you don't have to guess throughout the little ranges in here. So you go up to 2, and then you turn this on mine. You turn this and it locks it down. Then you put it on there, and let me see if I can do this one-handed. It's only 32, so that was it. On the click, you're good to go. Same thing for the other side. And now that's torqued down. Now all I have to do is torque down the terminal connections, those two there, and it'll be done. All right. All right, finished installation of the new starter. We just need to put the that guard back on, and I believe that's for the flex plate or flywheel. I think it keeps out dirt and debris from in there, so it doesn't chew up the gears and such. So there's a good reason for it. So let's do that, and then we'll lower it off the hoist and give her a crank. I've been charging the battery, so it should fire. It's been about an hour or so, and this fits on there. This fits on there right around the starter motor. This bolt is right there on the side, so it goes just like this, and then that 110 millimeter holds it in. All right. The guard's back on. Like I said, it just it slips in both sides and is retained by that 10 mil right there. So starter is installed. Everything's good. Everything's torqued down. The terminals are correct, and the wires are on. So I'll meet you topside. That's all there is to it. That's how you replace a starter on a 2002 Pontiac Grand Prix with a 3.1 liter in it. Like, share, and subscribe. If you think I could do it any better, go ahead and leave me a comment and tell me what I should be doing better. You know, I'm open to criticism. All right.